Okay, this is a fairly rough garage find SB-220. Today is the, I think the 11th of July 2022. And I went to an estate sale and bought the leftovers from a friend's estate. This was sitting out in the garage, up on a shelf, missing its cabinet. It's got its upper and lower perforated covers, but missing the green cabinet. Dirty. I just turned it upside down and got some mouse poop out of it. You can see that this meter lens has been bashed in and somebody's tried to glue it. This one's got a little crack down here. So anyway, you can see, let me see if we'll zoom in on this thing, some of the obvious faults. I've got the camera aimed the right place, and okay. This thing has had modifications, bad repairs, things are blown up and not fixed. So what we can see is that there's missing resistor here. Somebody has scabbed in a resistor and left the leads long. Here's a plate switch, leader from the plate switch going nowhere. The meters have got duct tape wrapped around them. In here you can see that there's a resistor that's kind of tacked in there, probably not right. So this is a diode rectifier board, which is questionable. We've got all new Harbach boards to go in here. New diode board. I think we've got new capacitors and bleeder resistors. Although I'm going to check these. These capacitors and bleeder resistors are often good and changed for no reason. So once everything is good and I got a new diode board in here, I'll bring this up on a variac and we'll see if these capacitors are any good. Here's some more diodes on a little piece of perf board strung in there, and we don't know what that's for. Have to follow the leads and find out. The RF tank circuit looks fairly normal, except there's a piece of twin lead going from the band switch in the 80 meter position over to an added double 360 microfarad tuning cap, and that's wired over to ground. So they've added some extra capacitance here, and oh, I know why. This plate tuning cap, I got an idea this is not original. This does not look original. So that's screwy. So I got to take a look at a picture of a good one or get my face in the manual. But I got a very good idea that this is not the original loading capacitor at all. Looks far too small, the spacing's too small, not enough capacity. I don't believe that's the right capacitor at all. So we'll see about that. It's still got its original wires wrapped around resistors for the parasitic chokes The RF choke looks okay. It's got its little feed throughs. Fan spins okay. But somebody's definitely screwed around with the loading circuit, antenna loading circuit for this thing. What else can we see in here? Oh, here's a little pot that's hung in here and tied into the metering circuit. So there's something screwy going on there. Get the cobwebs out of this thing. Let's see if you can look in the viewfinder. I can edit this out if we can seeing in here well enough. Okay. I guess I should probably have better light on this, but I don't have any electric light out here. It's a workbench where I clean stuff. So I can see that I've been in here with a felt tip pen and made a bunch of X's where things don't look right. Here's the push to talk relay, big relay in here has been replaced. There's a 3-pole double throw, looks pretty heavy, but wiring is questionable. There's a little tiny 1/8 watt resistor, or maybe a diode that's coming off one of those pins hanging in space. Here is apparently a big ancient resistor, transistor, but I guess it is. No, it's got 4 legs on it. I don't know what the hell it is. Something hung in there. All these little electrolytics are flagged. I've got a bunch of X's in here to look at all of the chassis grounds, none of which you'd trust any farther. You can throw it. Here's paper capacitor and added electrolytic that looks cobby. Here's some wiring that looks like it's been fried or gooped or something. I can't really tell what's going on there. I gotta get some more light on it. Oh yeah, and this oh, this is really screwy. This the copper brass strap running from the loading coil to the band switch, and that just looks very dubious. There's a couple of connections here with some kind of orange crud on the ends. I don't know what it is. Might have been some Corona dope or glue or something. But anyway, all of the wiring in here has to be checked. A lot of things have to be resoldered. All the grounds have to be checked. A lot of components have to be changed. Just some very dubious crap in here. The guy who had this was getting really old. I know he couldn't see very well, and when I talked to him about fixing things, his thinking was often rather fuzzy. I won't mention his name or call sign, but definitely some fuzzy thinking going on in his approach to repairs. So, first thing I'm going to do is just clean this, get it nice and squeaky clean. And then I'm going to get out my my list, because I did go through here and make a list of all the faults that I could find, you know, wiring and mechanical faults, and, you know, things that didn't go anywhere and stuff. And try to work that list down. And somewhere in here I've got to build the Harbach boards, and we'll get to, we'll replace the diode board and get the rest of the wiring straight, and then we'll see what we've got. So anyway, this is step number one. Nothing now but radio washing for a while. Don't let anybody blow any smoke at you. All you need to clean a radio is hot dish soap and water, a scrubber sponge, a good clean rag, maybe some paper towels, screwdriver and a rag or paper towels to get in the corners, and then follow that with some rinse water. You got to do that a couple of times sometime. Get things clean. Then anything that won't come off is either going to require mineral spirits, which is paint thinner, or rubbing alcohol, depending on what it is. Okay, when you're cleaning a radio for the first time, after you got it clean, go back through and just start looking for stuff that doesn't look right. And take yourself a felt tip pen and make yourself a mark there. This will come off with rubbing alcohol. Don't worry about it. It'll come right off. You'll never see it. Okay, so let's go around. I'd done this a year or two ago, and I've forgotten what they all are, but we'll look at the marks and we'll see. So here's bad solder joint. Ground that has to be tightened. Another ground that has to be tightened. You're going to look at all these things and look at these solder joints. I'd say most of the solder joints in this thing are pretty poor, and they need to get redone. Look at the things that are tucked in here, like this RF choke. Make sure that it's not been damaged, and don't damage it when you clean it. We clean the tube socket. Going to look at all these solder joints on there. Here's another chassis ground. Every chassis ground in this thing got to be tightened. And here's, you know, a goofy solder joint where they've spliced this mica cap in there. Look at these wires. If you see what looks like it might be an arc mark on the chassis, take a look at it. This is just cobby. That's all that is. And you got to get down in here and clean these insulators. This is not only high voltage, but high RF current. You got to keep these clean. Look at these RF chokes. Cold solder joint on the end of that. You got to make sure that that chassis ground is tight. Keep on going. They've put corona preventer on the end of this coax. God knows why. It's a weird thing to do. Was he having SWR problems? You don't need that in an amplifier. So this is all cobby. I think that thing will come right out. I've got a big X on this relay. This is a 24 volt DC relay, not original. I'm sure the original relay was a 110 volt relay. So that means that all of this wiring has been changed. Who knows how they've gotten the power to run this relay. I think that's what that little diodes on a perf board are. Might be robbing it from the filament circuit. Not a good idea. More corona dope. More corona dope. You can see I've got X marks here. Check this chassis ground. Why is there corona dope on here? Here's a loose diode, not connected to anything. More corona dope, real cobby wiring. Should not be in an amplifier. Look over here, make sure that where these wires go through the feed through, that nothing is disturbed. All clean around the switches. More corona dope, really strange. Okay, this terminal board here, turn this thing around. They've added this, I guess it's a relay in here, and it's just screwy. None of this is original, doesn't belong in here. Very poorly done. cold solder joints. So that's got to probably just be ripped out. If you don't know what this is supposed to look like, and you've got a Heathkit like this, get the original manual with the pictorial diagrams. It will show you the parts layout and exactly where every part and every wire is supposed to be located, and you'll find all the junk that doesn't belong in there. Okay, more chassis grounds to check. Go over here. Okay, this is an added capacitor with funky soldering on it. I've got an X on it. At least check it. I've also got a green arrow on it. Here they've got the thing wired for 220 or 240. Well, you see the size of the wires coming in here. It's all like number 10 wire, but they're gonna tie the two halves of the centered tap together with a piece of number 16 wire. What's wrong with that? All of that current has got to flow through there, and they're using this tiny little bit of wire. Might as well call it a fuse. So over here, got a mark on here to check this. Again, bad solder connections, probably when it was built. Stuff's been replaced, dubious. So there you go. Not too bad, but a lot of little details. Now, when you get done doing this, there's two ways to do this. Make a mark and write the item down on a sheet of paper and give it a number and explain it, or make all the marks and then go back and write them down. Doesn't matter which. But when you get done, you should end up with a list that you can refer to when you're doing your repairs.